Thanks for joining us for CBN News Watch. I'm Mark Martin. Today, lawyers for former President Donald Trump promising to fight his indictment in court. Some Democrats praising the indictment. Trump and some Republicans blasting it, calling it a political action. And others questioning the prosecution's use of a former Trump attorney, now a convicted felon.
Michael Cohen is far from solid evidence.
We'll look at the case and what comes next. Hundreds of leaders in the technology industry calling for a pause in the development of AI, artificial intelligence. One of them, Elon Musk, who has been warning about it for years.
I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads by a lot. And nobody would suggest that we allow anyone to just build nuclear warheads if they want.
We'll hear why many experts are concerned. Thousands of Ukrainian refugees keep flooding into Israel after leaving their homes with very little, but happy to arrive in the Holy Land.
We are very happy to visit the historical homeland of my husband, to show our son the land of his forefathers.
We'll show you who's helping them get settled in their new home. And ministering to senior citizens in nursing homes in the aftermath of COVID.
You cannot go into a government-funded facility to evangelize, but you can go in and develop caring friendships and help your friend take Jesus' hand so that he can help them and fulfill the spiritual needs that they have.
How this chaplain is reaching out and inviting the church to join his effort of turning loneliness into love. Those stories for you today on CBN News Watch.
This is CBN News Watch.
We begin with the reaction to the bombshell news of the indictment of former President Trump. A Manhattan grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump over hush money payments made to an adult film star. Republicans quickly blasting the move by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and Trump himself calling it election interference. CBN's Matt Galka has the story.
The indictment from the Manhattan grand jury makes Donald Trump the only current or former president ever to be charged with a crime. The investigation, led by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, centers around an alleged $130,000 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. The payment allegedly made before the 2016 election over an alleged affair the former president denies. Trump responded in a lengthy statement that read in part, quote, "This is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history." Trump's Vice President Mike Pence defended him on CNN shortly after the news broke.
I think the unprecedented indictment of a former president of the United States on a campaign finance issue is an outrage. And it appears to millions of Americans to be nothing more than a political prosecution.
Other Republicans rushed to Trump's defense and targeted the DA's motives.
It's duplicitous charging. They're trying to smear the guy. They're trying to take cases that nobody else would take and resurrect them. This is literally legal voodoo.
I think the Democrats know this has nothing to do with the law. They're sending a message, and the message is they will use any power that they have to interfere in the next presidential election.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy tweeting out a promise to hold Bragg accountable. Meanwhile, some Democrats preached patience. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer tweeting, "Mr. Trump is subject to the same laws as every American. There should be no outside political influence, intimidation, or interference in the case." The indictment remains sealed, meaning the exact charges are still unknown. The former president and the leading GOP candidate for 2024 is expected to turn himself in next week with an arraignment Tuesday. The New York Police Department is increasing security in anticipation of possible protests. Matt Galka, CBN News.
With us now is CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, the indictment hasn't been unsealed yet, but what exactly is the case expected to be against the former president? Is it very strong?
Well, you make a good point.
With us now is CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, the indictment hasn't been unsealed yet, but what exactly is the case expected to be against the former president? Is it very strong?
Well, you make a good point, first of all, Mark, saying that it's not been revealed specifically yet, so we can't really answer that definitively. What we do know is that apparently there are now 34 counts of falsifying business records. It's not just the Stormy Daniels hush money payment, as we've been hearing all along. So we're going to get more details on this. But look, even falsifying business records is a misdemeanor. And quite frankly, as it relates to this case, the hush money payment case, you have a statute of limitations issue as well. That would have run out after 2 years, and it's been more than 2 years. Look, the Justice Department themselves, Mark, did not want to prosecute this. The former head of the Federal Election Committee said this is really murky, and not only murky, very skeptical at best in terms of pursuing charges. So there's a all sorts of problems. We can get into more of the specifics in a bit, but the bottom line is this is going to be a very, very tough case to prosecute.
David, is Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen expected to be a key part of the case, and is he credible?
Well, he is. He's supposed to be the star witness, and I think that says everything. A convicted, a former convict who is going to be your star witness. I believe that's where I say hashtag credibility. I mean, look, there are all sorts of problems here, but Michael Cohen indeed will be what they consider to be the star witness. We'll see what happens on that. But look, ultimately, here's the problem for the prosecution. Alvin Bragg and his team are going to have to prove intent to make it a felony. And what I mean by that specifically is, did Donald Trump intend to make sure to make this payment to cover up the Stormy Daniels situation because, and here's the key reason, because it would have affected his election chances. Well, how do you improve intent exactly on that? That's the issue. That would make it a felony. But once again, very difficult to prove intent because Donald Trump doesn't put anything in emails and texts and things like that. A lot of it's spoken conversation. So this is basically one of the many problems in this. It's really a misdemeanor at best and potentially a misdemeanor that has already passed the statute of limitations. So there are multiple problems with this.
Republicans are blasting this indictment. How solid will their support be for Trump?
Well, I think it'll be solid across the board because this has become much bigger than Trump. You know, it's funny. The left has an obsession with Donald Trump, but their obsession with Trump has turned Trump into a symbol. It's no longer about Trump. It's something much bigger than Trump, which is somewhat ironic. And it's about the weaponization, as we've been hearing, of the federal government against conservatives. And this isn't just about Donald Trump. I mean, ask parents at school board meetings who have been asked and targeted and been part of a task force as it relates to the Justice Department and others coming after parents at these school board meetings for speaking out. What about the pro-lifers across the country who have had to deal with what we call the FACE Act, in essence being persecuted for their pro-life beliefs when they stand up at an abortion clinic? What about the January 6th prisoners? Many of them haven't had a bond hearing in over 2 years. I mean, the list goes on. We haven't even gotten to the IRS. So this has gone way beyond Trump, and that's why the rallying cry with not just Republicans, but Matt, excuse me, Mark, I've got to tell you, it's beyond Republicans. It's beyond MAGA. This is going to be those independents in the heartland and the Rust Belt, the blue-collar independents and the soft Democrats in the Rust Belt and heartland who go, wait a minute, hold on. This is ridiculous. And those are the exact voters that propelled Trump in 2016. And my sense of this, and you can't empirically say it right now, but just give it a few months. My sense of it is that Donald Trump numbers are not just going to go up among independents and soft Democrats. They'll go up among evangelicals as well. Because, see, Mark, here's the deal. Evangelicals have always seen themselves in society as kind of the outcasts, as kind of the victims that are persecuted for their beliefs and all that, just like Christ was back in the day. Donald Trump.
All right, CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. Thanks, David, for being with us. And as always, thank you for your insight, sir.
You bet.
Coming up, leaders in the technology field calling for a pause in the development of artificial intelligence to study the risks and potential dangers. We're going to hear about their concerns when we come back. Welcome back to NewsWatch. Hundreds of leaders in the technology industry are calling for a pause in the development and testing of artificial intelligence so that the risks can be properly studied. Dale Hurd brings us a look at why they're worried.
Is humanity in danger from new artificial intelligence technology? Some tech experts fear it could be. An open letter signed by the leading voices in tech is calling for a 6-month pause in development, warning that language-based models like ChatGPT, which generate human-like responses, could one day attempt to replace humans and even try to rule the world. Tech leader Elon Musk warned about artificial intelligence in this 2018 interview.
The danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads, by a lot. And nobody would suggest that we allow anyone to just build nuclear warheads if they want.
The release of OpenAI's chatbot has sparked a multi-billion-dollar race between Microsoft and Google to offer competitors.
I'm afraid that the whole world, and no exaggeration, Billy, 18 months from now, the world as we know it could be unrecognizable.
Christian author and faith leader Johnny Moore is asking religious leaders to support the pause and ask the tough questions about ethics and morality.
If that means if we press pause on the innovation for 6 months or 9 months or 3 months or 3 weeks for that matter at this pace of change, we can do the work needed.
AI expert Eliezer Yudkowsky warns the open letter doesn't go far enough, saying literally everyone on Earth will die if AI is allowed to advance unchecked.
The reality is, whether we're ready or not is no longer a relevant question. The question is, the technology is here. What do we do moving forward?
Concerns about the technology range from mass unemployment as AI replaces workers, to a widespread loss of privacy, to weapons systems that independently decide who they should kill. Interpol has issued a new report warning the technology could be misused for fraud, cybercrime, disinformation, and social engineering.
What scares me the most is that people start to trust it so much that we don't even investigate it. We just trust that this machine is so intelligent, it must be putting out truth, when in reality, it's actually just a really good con artist behind a machine.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Still ahead, leaving their homes with 1 or 2 suitcases and no money. Thousands of Ukrainian refugees keep flooding into Israel. Find out who's helping them get settled in their new homeland right after this. Thanks for staying with us. When Russia invaded Ukraine, thousands of Jews fled the fighting and immigrated to Israel. So far, more than 50,000 Ukrainians and Russians have made the journey. Many of them had mixed emotions upon arriving in their new country. Julie Stahl brings us this firsthand look.
90 new immigrants from Ukraine and Russia arrived here on this flight from Chisinau, Moldova, chartered by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Some couldn't come earlier because they had sick loved ones in Ukraine.
My father died earlier, and then my grandpa was sick and bedridden. We wanted to go to Israel, but the doctors told us that he wouldn't survive the journey to get the medical treatment there. My mother left, and now we're going.
Waiting at the airport in Chisinau, some had mixed emotions.
Well, I'm happy because I'll see my family, my loved ones. My mother, my sisters, my sons, and granddaughters are already there. But at the same time, it's very sad for me because my wife stayed in Ukraine. Her mother is old. She is not able to leave for now. And on the other hand, my mother has been in Israel for 30 years already. She's almost 101.
Some came from Russia.
We are very happy to visit the historical homeland of my husband, to show our son the land of his forefathers.
During the first 10 months of the war, close to 40,000 Russians and 15,000 Ukrainians came to Israel.
In the beginning, there was people that just ran out from the fire. They saw the tanks, they feel the fires. They didn't know what is going to happen. There was a feeling that everything is going to fall down and Ukraine will be Russia in 5 days, and they just ran away.
Benny Haddad is with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews that helped about 5,000 Ukrainian refugees make the trip from Moldova.
They have one packet with their documents, taking kids in their hands, no clothes, nothing at all, and we need to give them everything. This was the beginning.
And a year later, they're still coming.
They are not running away. They are planning something. They're coming here with suitcase, one or two. They cannot sell the homes or the cars. They have no money. But they have their things with them, and they have some plan where are we going to be in the beginning. They have some information.
Still, it wasn't an easy decision.
I have two countries. One country of my parents, of my family, and one of my soul. It's Israel and Ukraine.
Katerina initially stayed to finish her degree in chemistry. Now she and her two cats are joining her parents and brother in Beersheba, Israel.
On New Year's Eve, it was rocket missiles by Russians. Near my house, it was 100 meters. And my university, my alma mater, was bombed. It is no windows now, and it is no place to study to our student.
Elena Shevchenko is leaving the chaos of war to be with her children and grandchildren.
This whole year, I haven't been able to come to my senses. When you stand in your own home and all the walls and windows are shaking, and you don't understand what for, why this is happening. When our children, our neighbors in the village are dying, and you don't understand the reason for it. Why is it so?
For 76-year-old Lev Vikniansky, it will be like a family reunion because his wife, son, and daughter and their families are in Israel.
It's been a year since I saw them, but before the war, I visited Israel 17 or 18 times. It's my second country. I couldn't leave what we have accumulated over the years. I need to pass it on to somebody. We had a business, we had a home, we had cars, we had everything to live comfortably and visit Israel 5 times a year.
And then, on a blustery day, they were home.
I made my decision about just 10 days ago, and I'm here to support my son, year student of NALE program, and I'm happy to stay here, and I hope that in the future I'll be able to repay Israel for support, for kindness.
Tears of joy that I came to my children to see them and that everything will go well here. I'm very happy that I made it here to my homeland.
I always feel good, especially when I come to my land, the land of my forefathers. That's why I can't feel bad.
It may not be easy for these newcomers, but they have the assurance that they have come home, as the prophet Amos said, never to be uprooted again. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Chisinau, Moldova, and Ben Gurion Airport, Tel Aviv.
Biblical prophecy unfolding right before our eyes. Well, you can see more news from the Middle East on Jerusalem Dateline on the CBN News Channel tonight at 8:30 Eastern. You can also see it on the CBN News app or on YouTube. Coming up, ministering to senior citizens. Even after the COVID lockdowns lifted, many seniors are still alone in nursing homes. We're going to see how one chaplain is reaching out to them with friendship and love and asking the church to join him. We'll hear from him when we come back. COVID-19 restrictions have devastated nursing home residents nationwide. Even after lockdowns and COVID mandates lift, a big hole is left in the quality of life for so many senior citizens. Despite setbacks from the pandemic, one chaplain is ministering to the elderly in their time of need, and he's inviting the church to step into his effort of turning loneliness into love. CBN's Brody brings us that story.
In the U.S., CDC data shows more than 200,000 long-term care patients and staff died from COVID-19. Many of them were banned from seeing family or even visitors for months. Today, faith-based organizations like God Cares Ministry, they're responding to an overwhelming sense of loneliness left behind from the pandemic.
The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth.
Chaplain Bill Goodrich began serving elderly communities nearly 40 years ago. His God Cares ministry seeks to find the lonely or forgotten and breathe life into them.
Our primary desire is to develop caring friendships with the residents and help them find hope and peace in Jesus. This is so important that we realize that you cannot go into a government-funded facility to evangelize, but you can go in and develop caring friendships and help your friend take Jesus's hand so that he can help them and fulfill the spiritual needs that they have.
The health crisis of isolation became especially clear at the height of COVID.
Should we blow kisses to Gigi? We love you.
Over 80% of the residents in senior care homes receive less than one visit a month. Even prior to the pandemic, they were overlooked and underserved.
While the CDC put mandates in place to protect the elderly, confinement took its toll.
And then when you isolate them and their primary companion is the television, there's no life in that. Basically, their souls have kind of fallen asleep or died, and they need to be reawakened.
Unable to go inside, Bill brought the church to them, teaching from windowsills with big print scripture. There's also a ministry book called God Cares for You. As facilities reopen, Bill's ministry is training volunteers nationwide to help the elderly fight the isolation crisis.
And until we rise up and provide this care, this spiritual care that Jesus has called us to do, they go without it, and they may die without Christ because they have died alone.
Goodrich says more than 1 million people live in nursing homes and another 1 million live in assisted living facilities nationwide. Now, he also believes there's a difference between providing care and genuine care. And it starts with visiting a nursing home and sharing your time with those who are alone or forgotten. Brody Carter, CBN News.
A very important ministry. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or you can talk to us on social media. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great weekend.